Hey, thanks so much for finding the video. Do us a favor. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe. Be sure to leave your comment. We love to interact. Enjoy the video. Let me start with why. Why did you take an interest to go deep dive on Taysom Hill's first start?
Oh, I mean, I think it's clearly the most interesting development of the last couple of weeks. Obviously, the NFL right now is kind of enveloped in this cloud of COVID and how the NFL's response to it. But in terms of like the on-field stories, there's not anything more interesting going on than Taysom Hill right now. Like you've got Patrick Mahomes is great, cool, but like it's not breaking news.
Right.
Tom Brady with the Bucs is interesting, but Taysom Hill is something. I don't know about you. I've never seen anything like this before. This guy's playing punt team like 3 weeks ago. Now he's the starting quarterback for the best team in the NFC. This is insane. It's not even like college football. This is like high school football. The guy who goes from special teams to fullback, he plays quarterback. It's like it's like a throwback to a different era of football. But Sean Payton's doing it in this way that is melding with the modern game, and honestly, it's like it's bringing the joy back to a season that hasn't had a lot of it for me.
That's interesting, man. Yeah, I mean, if you remember Cordell Stewart in Pittsburgh in the mid-'90s, felt a little like this, but Taysom's obviously a much different style of athlete from Cordell Stewart. Taysom obviously has the ability to run between tackles, big bruiser, but you're right, it's definitely a throwback. So, by the way, did you went deep dive on the first start. Did you evaluate his second start against Denver?
So, not the same deep dive, because here's the thing. Like, let's be honest. That game, it's almost like you got to throw it out. They're never going to have a game against a team that has a quarterback. I think the Saints threw out their game plan, and we're not going to air the ball out. So the first game that Taysom Hill started against the Falcons, Sean Payton actually said after the game, I wanted him to throw because he's a quarterback. You all have been talking about him like he's a Swiss Army knife guy. He's not. He's a quarterback. And then this Broncos game, he comes out and throws 78 passing yards. I don't think that's by design. They're like, the only way the Broncos were going to win that game is if he threw a pick six or there was a strip sack. There's the only way. So I think the Saints completely pared down. In terms of looking forward at what the offense is going to be, I think the game is borderline irrelevant, other than the left side of the offensive line wasn't very good. But in terms of Taysom Hill, like, what's he going to be? Is he a good quarterback? All this stuff. I think the Falcons game's a blueprint, especially since they're playing the Falcons again, how the Falcons respond. This is such a cool game coming in because how the Falcons respond to him is really going to be fascinating.
I completely agree. It's going to be interesting to see how defenses adjust, and we're going to find an answer in very short order. So let's go back to your piece, which is up at The Ringer, and I retweeted it earlier today for anybody who wants to see it. Is Taysom Hill, for sure. Yeah, is Taysom Hill the Saints quarterback of the future? Is the headline. Danny Heifetz wrote it, and you can go check it out right now. I would highly recommend you do it. So let's go through, because there's a lot of nuance that you got into, which interested me, most notably the difference in the Saints offense between Drew Brees and Taysom Hill. So what were the most notable differences aside from Taysom Hill runs really well?
So I think the biggest one is that they use play action a lot. Like, it seems like Drew Brees is really good at avoiding sacks, but quite honestly, they don't really use play action a ton. I think that this season they were using it like 42nd out of like 45 quarterbacks who were eligible. And then Taysom Hill comes in, and then in that game, they used it like 40% of the time, which would be first. It would be like more play action than any quarterback uses. So Drew Brees is basically almost last in play action rate. And then when Taysom Hill comes in, the Saints are first in play action rate. So I think that's really interesting. And basically, I think that that's using a modern offense. When you have Drew Brees, who has such a great understanding of defenses, I think that they're trying to do something fundamentally different. Taysom Hill obviously does not have the knowledge, the experience, the wisdom. He doesn't see the chessboard the way that Drew Brees does. But Taysom Hill, they're just motion again. It's kind of like the fake is back. They're more misdirection with the football. Where's the ball going? Defenders have to think. There's a lot more of that. So instead of Drew Brees being the one thinking, Sean Payton's kind of making Taysom Hill and the offense players move in a way that they want the defense to think.
What were the things that Taysom did in that first start that were, let's say, plus, that were, I don't want to say exceptional, but that were really, really good?
Well, he threw the ball. He threw a back pass, right? That's the only thing you haven't really seen from him in like spurts. I mean, this is a guy who hasn't thrown a touchdown pass yet. We didn't really know if he could throw. We had like 18 passing attempts coming into the game, the 20 if you include the playoffs. Had 23 in the game, completed 18 of the 23, so he was pretty good. Obviously, he underthrew a couple of deep balls, which wasn't great, but overall, I don't think you can watch that game and come away thinking he doesn't have the juice. I think the question is, can he go from okay, what happens when your first option is not covered? What happens when Michael Thomas is covered and Alvin Kamara is kind of covered in the flat? Can he improvise? But we'll see. He certainly earned the benefit of the doubt that he can do the drop back passing thing.
The two deep balls that you referenced in your piece, that we've talked about it a bunch, obviously, that I've said it kind of looked like a punt in a high school football game.
Yeah.
That is something we've talked about here, Danny, because he did throw a pass in the divisional round playoff game last year against the Vikings, and it was a deep ball that was underthrown to Deontay Harris by about 5 yards or so. So, when do we look at that and go, okay, he struggles with the deep ball?
We look at it this week because the Falcons are watching that tape and salivating. The Falcons, in their defensive, first of all, I feel like the Saints and Falcons are the first team that, we're going to play division rivals twice in 3 weeks. I feel like it's always the Falcons that do that.
So right.
It's weird. And the Falcons are sitting here. It's weird that the first team to get to play Taysom Hill twice is their division rival. It's not weird. It's just how it is. And I think that the Falcons defense right now is watching the film of this game, and they're salivating. They're thinking they're hunting for these underthrows. The Saints know that. So if he starts doing it again, that Sean Payton's been emphasizing to him, hey, when we take our deep shots, you can't underthrow it. How often do you hear when we talk about quarterbacks, how often do you hear, oh, well, he put it in a place that only the receiver could get it? Taysom Hill has to start doing that because it's obvious to us, it's obvious to the coaches and the players. So if it happens again, fool me once, whatever, fool me twice, it's like, oh, it's not so good.
Danny Heifetz is our guest. The Ringer, go read his stuff there. He's on the Ringer Fantasy Football podcast as well. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Do you believe, and again, a small sample, but do you believe Taysom Hill as a starting quarterback in the NFL is viable?
I do. And it's funny because it's such an insane story. I mean, this guy is 30 years old. He hasn't thrown a touchdown pass. He had 4 season-ending injuries in college in 5 years. I mean, this is crazy, right?
No.
But at the end of the day, Sean Payton loves reclamation projects, right? He's never built teams around a normal quarterback. He has Drew Brees. No one wanted him for the shoulder, right? Like the shoulder injury was huge. They signed Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater was an hour away from getting his leg amputated. Like no one knew what the deal was with his knee. They took in Jameis Winston for a year after he had, the 30-30 season with the interceptions. And now they got Taysom Hill who had all these injuries. He doesn't want to build a normal offense, but look, at the end of the day, the fact that they gave him the starting role, the fact they signed him to this deal with a $16 million extension, at a certain point, Sean Payton can only scream it from the rooftops so much. If he says, I want Taysom Hill to be considered a quarterback, at some point we have to listen to him. The words and the actions are aligning. He's clearly the quarterback of the future, and I don't know about you. I don't think Drew Brees seems like he's going to be coming back next year. I think Taysom Hill is the starter for next year. Honestly, he might be the starter for the stretch run this playoffs too.
I asked you about the good. What about the bad from that first start? We talked about the deep throws, but anything else that made you go,
The first thing that jumps to my mind isn't even Taysom Hill, it's Sean Payton. And I think that, again, that Payton quote where he said, he told Peter King of NBC after the game, he started out running the ball because he didn't want people to call Taysom Hill He didn't want them to call Taysom Hill a runner. He wanted them to call Taysom Hill a quarterback. I can't remember the last time a coach was game planning to shape the media narrative after a game. I can't believe Sean Payton said it. I can't believe he did it. That's the first thing is I think the Saints are listening to the noise. I think that's kind of weird. But in terms of Taysom Hill's on-field skill set, I think it's about reading defenses, right? Like when they take away Drew Brees' real skill as a quarterback is not finding Michael Thomas 150 times or 149 times in a season. The best Drew Brees games are the games where he has 25 completions to 12 people, right? And then there are 4 touchdown passes to 4 people you didn't even know were on the team. And somehow Josh Hill has a touchdown, and Adam Troutman has a touchdown, and Tommy Lee Lewis has a touchdown. And you're like, what is going on? Can Taysom Hill spread the ball? It's, what's that proverb? It's in a bountiful harvest, when Michael Thomas is open, you can hit Michael Thomas. The real test here is what happens when he needs to go to option 2, 3, or 4, and he can still make the right play, because that's what Drew Brees is really good at.
He is Danny Heifetz. You'll follow him on Twitter at Danny_Heifetz, Heifetz. Read stuff at The Ringer and The Ringer Fantasy Football Podcast as well.
I'm Snoopy on Twitter. Heifetz is kind of hard to spell.
His avatar is Snoopy.
The pictures of Snoopy. Danny, H-E-I. F is in Frank. E-T-Z is in zebra. Yeah, it's okay if you can't spell Heifetz.
Hey, man, I'm Moscona. Do you think, the voice guy on this radio station. I've been here 11 years. He still can't nail it. So it's okay. We all get it. They'll find you through mine or however some way they'll find
Perfect.
Snoopy there. Danny, I appreciate the time, man. Thanks for the visit.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Again, Ringer Fantasy Football Show. You can check out that podcast. Thank you so much for having me on that.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.